I started writing a talk about all of Granny's favorite things, but I didn't think I could do it justice about my mom. So we're going to tell some stories of Granny.
While we were singing that hymn, it reminded me of how my mother couldn't sing. She was tone deaf. And in church, I used to not want to sit by her because I didn't want people to think that that sound was coming out of me.
I just didn't sing at all.
She said that when she was growing up Catholic, the priest promised, the choir had gone trips and stuff, and the priest promised she could be in the choir, she promised not to sing. So she would mouth the words, but she couldn't let any sound come out. One of her favorite sayings was to eat dessert first. And if you're watching your weight, then you eat dessert only. Because, you know, that's the way she lived. She lived her whole life that way. Another saying that she always said was, why tell the truth when it's so much more fun to lie? If I was late for school, she wouldn't just say, gee, we overslept, we were late for school. No, she had to fit this big story about why we were late and write it down, you know, for the teacher and everything. And Aunt Dot is here. Aunt Dot was raised almost like my mom's sister. They were raised in New Orleans together. It's actually her cousin. And they grew up together. My mom says that she was very jealous of Aunt Dot because she was the baby, and she was cute, and so they had a lot of fun together because she would play practical jokes on Aunt Dot, and Aunt Dot didn't really know because she was younger. So you want to come share a couple of stories?
Well, Rosalind was my teacher. She was 2.5 years older than I am, and she knew everything. She was very worldly. And she wanted to make sure that her little cousin would know the ways of the world. So her duty was to teach. Mine was to be quiet, listen, and never question. I'll tell you 2 stories about what she taught me. The one I remember most was about the cows. She wanted to tell me why cows have 3 spigots. Now, I know you all know it's 4, but Rosalind said it's 3, so it's 3. You don't question Rosalind. The first spigot was for white milk. The second spigot, you got chocolate milk. The third spigot, you got orange juice. I never questioned. To this day, I know orange juice comes from cows. Next thing she taught me, she knew a lot about geography too. And she told me if I would go in the backyard and dig a hole, I could reach China. Well, my mother told me I couldn't dig a hole in the mud because I would get dirty. So I would sit on the sidewalk. You know how they have the cracks in between? I took a matchstick and I would sit there and I would dig and I would dig by an hour. Sure that I was going to see a little Chinese boy and girl looking up at me, and I never did. I'm not going to tell you some of the other things she told me and some of the things we did because you would be shocked. But one thing, I hate to tell y'all, we used to hide the toilet paper from people. And when they would go in the bathroom, there was no toilet paper, and we wouldn't tell where we put it. But anyway, she was my teacher, and I'll miss her. And thank you all.
One of her favorite lies to tell was that she had a pin of a ship, and she said that was the pin that she got as a reward for coming over on the ship with Christopher Columbus. Mom believed her. Mom took the pin to kindergarten?
Yeah.
And was in trouble for lying to the class. I was the first generation not to believe her when she told me, but she came off the Santa Maria with Columbus.
Yeah, with Columbus, and she had the pin to prove it because they gave a souvenir pin to everybody who was on that ship.
While they were walking down the escalator, she said.
Another one she taught was it's easier to ask forgiveness than permission. And my mom rarely asked permission to do anything. She just kind of did it her own way.
My favorite lesson was that Cheetos and Coke are okay to eat for breakfast. We had that every morning on the way to town. We'd stop, and if you weren't getting enough protein from Cheetos and Coke, then you could have Raisin Bran for dinner with ants in it. And she said, no, they're not ants, they're not sugar ants, that's protein, and we believed her.
Bugs never bothered her. She always said, oh, it's a little protein. You know, people in other countries, they eat these bugs all the time. And so don't worry about it.
And she lived to 77 on Cheetos and Coke.
That's true, and bugs. So it can't be all bad. House cleaning was definitely not one of her her fortes. She said, why make the bed? You're just going to sleep in it again. And why unload the dishwasher? Boy, is that redundant, because you're just going to use the dishes. So she didn't believe it.
All the dishes stay in the dishwasher.
And then when they invented paper and plasticware, boy, that was it. She didn't like to cook. As a little girl, we went to Dairy Queen most nights, split a hamburger, a cheeseburger, chips, and a drink. We'd each get our own drink. And I ate a lot of SpaghettiOs and hot dogs. And I cooked as a teenager. I did all the cooking. I remember when she married Jack, she said, the preacher said, you promised to love, honor, and obey. And she said, so everybody can hear, yes, but I will not cook. so she did it. She didn't give, she didn't like that. Another thing we learned was about car repair, because, you know, a lot of the time it was single parent. And so she said, she taught me she loved to drive fast. Boy, if you're ever with her, you knew. The way you check a car's alignment is you open it up to 100 miles an hour on the freeway, and you turn loose the wheel, and then if it pulls to the right or the left, you know, that means that your car's out of balance. And she scared me quite a few times that way.
My favorite car story was how she took out the garbage. There's a gravel road that goes out to her farm. So you put the garbage on the hood of the car, and you drive down the gravel road 100 miles an hour, and you slam on the brake, and then all the trash rolls off the hood, and it's at the end of the road, and you don't even have to get out of the car.
She did like to drive fast. I know a couple times she had so many speeding tickets that they were going to take her license away, and we sweated. I was always the one that was on the lookout for the policeman when we were driving, and Richard will tell you to this day I'm still paranoid about policemen, you know, because I'm always looking when he's driving to
Tell me about how she had 2 driver's licenses.
Yes, she did, because she had one, she called it her DWI license, because her eyes were closed and her mouth was open, and she really did look drunk. And she said, if I ever get arrested, I have an extra license. I'll tell them this is the way I'm supposed to look. She really never drank, though. She always said one glass of wine put her under the table. So she was a happy enough person without drinking. She also was a religious person. She had kind of a combination of religions. She grew up Catholic. Later, she joined the Mormon Church. She never let go, though, of her New Orleans roots as far as psychics and palm reading and astrology. She still believed in all that.
I got to skip youth conference when you were going to go to the psychic fair. That's my reading about.
I remember she would say, don't worry about the last days, because we'd have lectures in church about how all these abominations were going to happen and life was going to be so awful. And she'd say, I've read the book of Revelations, and all those things are going to happen to men. None of it doesn't say anywhere it's going to happen to women. That's why it's going to be the millennium, because all the men are going to have been killed off, and the women are just going to be having a great time running the earth. So
she also said that the Mormon Church believes that everybody will gather again in Missouri. And we all have bad feet. We've all inherited them from I don't know who, but she got them, Mom got them, I got them. So it was going to be time for the Mormons to go to Missouri. We were all going to join the Church of Christ because their headquarters were in Austin. We wouldn't have to walk very far. Well, when I called her to tell her I was unengaged, I was trying to explain it to everybody, because it's a complicated thing to explain when you already have, you know, a third of a wedding dress. And I said, Grammy, I just said yes because, you know, I liked him and I didn't want to say no, and I wanted to keep dating, and I just didn't really want to get married. And she said, I understand. And she did understand, because she'd been married 5 times.
Yeah. And she didn't know how to say no a lot of times. She was, on her first communion picture, you'll see she's a little bit older than most first communion pictures, and that was because she had an argument with the priest, and she refused to say what had to be said for first communion. So she stood her ground, and eventually I think they were embarrassed that she was going to be way taller than everybody else. So she made
She didn't believe in the Trinity. That was the problem.
Is that what the problem was?
Yeah.
I couldn't even remember. Fires played a big part in our life. Well, I remember we had candles burning on the dresser in the bedroom one time, which we fell asleep and that whole thing caught fire. It was like an advent calendar where you light each candle. If you go to the TV in her bathroom today, there's a big hole in the top of it where the candle burned through in the bathroom.
The important thing to remember is to always leave the candle in the hole where it burns so that you can't see the hole.
That's what she taught us too. The dryer was on fire one time. I remember that, and I went and told her, Mom, the dryer's on fire. We lived in that little mobile home, and it was a gas dryer. There's flames coming out. Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Close. It's just really hot. I need the fire extinguisher. Finally, she comes. Oh my gosh, the dryer's on fire. So we had our experiences with fire also. Of course, when we moved out to the farm, everything was a great experience. She and I moved out of Austin when I was about 11 or 12, and moved to Copeland by ourselves, and 5 acres and a mobile home. And I mean, she didn't know till we moved out there that there was no plumbing, there was no sewage, and there was no water. We just found out after we got there that we flushed the toilet didn't go anywhere. So then we had to get a septic tank and have people haul water in and all that sort of stuff. And so it was an adventure. We'd learn to ride horses, and we'll have some cowboy pictures for you to see too. But she was an adventuresome person, and she did a lot in her life, but I didn't want people to miss or forget the fun things that she did, and that she always had a good time. And that's why she always ate dessert first, because she said you never know, and you don't want to, you don't want to waste those calories just on nutritious foods.
Thank you. One of my favorite stories was Christmas morning. Mom and Dad were not morning people, and I'm not either, except on Christmas morning. So I wanted to wake up very early, and I'd wake up Grammy. It'd be 5:36. So we had a good game going, and we probably did this for 5 years in a row. She would go let the dogs out of our house, and that would set off the alarm. The alarm wouldn't wake up Mom and Dad, but when the police came to the house because the alarm was going off, that woke up Mom and Dad, and so we had Christmas morning very early. My other favorite one was every New Year's. It was too cold to go outside and do firecrackers, and so I think where most kids would be depressed, not Grammy, we're going to do sparklers in the living room, and we did. She burned holes in our pants, in the chair, in the carpet, but we did sparklers. We had New Year's Eve, so. And also one of her favorite things was the giving tree. Mom and I can't remember a single Sunday school lesson or PTA meeting that she didn't read this book, so in honor of Grammy, we're going to read the giving tree. Once there was a tree, and she loved a little boy. And every day the boy would come, and he would gather her leaves and make them into crowns and play king of the forest. He would climb up her trunk and swing from her branches and eat apples. And then they would go play hide and seek. And when he was tired, he would sleep in her shade. And the boy loved the tree very much, and the tree was happy. But time went by, and the boy grew older, and the tree was often alone. Then one day the boy came to the tree, and the tree said, "Come, boy, come and climb up my trunk and swing from my branches, and eat apples and play in my shade and be happy." "I am too big to climb and play," said the boy. "I want to buy things and have fun. I want some money. Can you give me some money?" "I'm sorry," said the tree, "but I have no money. I have only leaves and apples. But take my apples, boy, and sell them in the city. Then you will have money and you will be happy." And so the boy climbed up the tree and gathered her apples and carried them away, and the tree was happy. But the boy stayed away for a long time, and the tree was sad. And then one day the boy came back, and the tree shook with joy, and she said, "Come, boy, climb up my trunk and swing from my branches and be happy." "I am too busy to climb trees," said the boy. "I want a house to keep me warm," he said. "I want a wife, and I want children, and I need a house. Can you give me a house?" "I have no house," said the tree. "The forest is my house. But you may cut off my branches and build a house, and then you will be happy." And so the boy cut off her branches and carried them away to build his house. And the tree was happy. But the boy stayed away for a long time, and when he came back, the tree was so happy she could hardly speak. "Come, boy," she whispered, "come and play." "I am too old and sad to play," said the boy. "I want a boat that will take me far away from here. Can you give me a boat?" "Cut down my trunk and make a boat," said the tree. "Then you can sail away and be happy." And so the boy cut down her trunk and made a boat and sailed away. And the tree was happy, but not really. After a long time, the boy came back again. "I am so sorry, boy," said the tree, "but I have nothing left to give you. My apples are gone, my teeth are too weak for apples," said the boy. "My branches are gone," said the tree. "You cannot swing on them." "I am too old to swing on branches," said the boy. "My trunk is gone," said the tree. "You cannot climb." "I am too tired to climb," said the boy. "I am so sorry," sighed the tree. "I wish I could give you something, but I have nothing left. I am just an old stump, and I'm so sorry." "I don't need very much now," said the boy. "Just a quiet place to sit and rest. I am very tired." "Well," said the tree, straightening herself up as much as she could, "an old stump is good for sitting and resting. Come, boy, sit down and rest." And the boy did, and the tree was happy. Some people looking in at Grammy's life would have called her a giving tree. Although she didn't have apples to put up for sale, she spent years teaching classes on employment and improving job skills. Although she wasn't made of wooden branches that could be cut down to provide shelter, she offered up her home to anyone who needed a roof over their head. Migrant farm workers, an out-of-work actress, a young, hungry family, several alcoholics. And even though she didn't have a trunk that could be made into a ship with which to sail far away, for many she provided a way off of the streets and into a better life. And Miss Wiggins was very, very happy. To me, Miss Wiggins was the giving tree. While some choose to put money in the stock market or to buy property and possessions, my grandmother chose to invest in people. As she aged, her health deteriorated until her body was tired and finally gave out. And even though she is no longer living among us, her legacy, those of us who were loved by her, continue.